Okay. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting to order for the Town of Petawawa regular council meeting for July 22nd, 2024. Welcome to members of council, staff, and of course our vast audience members, I think. I'll start tonight's meeting off by reading the land acknowledgement. As we gather this evening, I would like to acknowledge on behalf of the Petawawa Town Council and our community that we are meeting on the traditional territory of the Algonquin and Anishinaabe people. We would like to thank the Algonquin people and express our respect and support for their rich history. And we are extremely grateful for their many and continued displays of friendship. We also thank all the generations of people who have taken care of this land for thousands of years. And we wish to acknowledge our shared responsibilities in responding to the Truth and Reconciliation Commission 94 calls to action. Tonight, we'll look at calls to action number 19. We call upon the federal government in consultation with Aboriginal peoples to establish measurable goals to identify and close the gaps in health outcomes between Aboriginal and non-Aboriginal communities, and to publish annual progress reports and assess long-term trends. Such efforts would focus on indicators such as infant mortality, maternal health, suicide, mental health, addictions, life expectancy, birth rates, infant and child health issues, chronic diseases, illness and injury incidents, and the availability of appropriate health services. In terms of recent progress, the Government of Canada is engaged in a multi-year joint review of the Non-Insured Health Benefits Program in partnership with the Assembly of First Nations. So steps are being taken. I'd like to ask everybody in attendance if they would please join me in rising for a moment of silent reflection. Thank you very much. I need a motion to approve the agenda. Moved by Councillor Coutu, seconded by Councillor Roots, that the agenda for the July 22nd, 2024 regular meeting of council be adopted. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It's carried. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest in any of this evening's matters? Next up, we have some minutes from the council meeting of July 8th, 2024. I need a motion to approve those minutes. Moved by Councillor Donovan, seconded by Deputy Mayor Sabourin, that the minutes of the regular meeting of council held July 8th, 2024 be approved as printed and circulated. Any questions, concerns on the minutes? I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Carried. Okay, we'll move right into bylaws. First up, we have bylaw 1678/24, being a bylaw to provide that section 50, paragraph 5 of the Planning Act not apply to a portion of block 48, registered plan 612. I need a motion for a first and second reading of the bylaw. Moved by Councillor Coutu, seconded by Councillor Driscoll, that bylaw 1678/24, being a bylaw to provide that section 50, bracket 5 of the Planning Act not apply to a portion of block 48, registered plan 612 be read a first and second time. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It's carried.
Corporation of the Town of Petawawa, bylaw 1678/24, being a bylaw to provide section 50, subsection 5 of the Planning Act not apply to a portion of block 48, registered plan 612. This constitutes first and second reading of the bylaw 1678/24.
I need a motion for third and final reading of bylaw 1678/24. Moved by Deputy Mayor Sabourin, seconded by Councillor Donovan, that bylaw 1678/24 be read a third and final time and passed. Any questions, comments, concerns on the bylaw? Then I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It's carried.
Corporation of the Town of Petawawa, bylaw 1678/24, being a bylaw to provide that section 50, subsection 5 of the Planning Act not apply to a portion of block 48, registered plan 612. This constitutes third and final reading of bylaw 1678/24, this 22nd day of July, 2024.
Next, we have correspondence. We have a letter from the Women's Sexual Assault Center and Rape Crisis Support Center, and they're asking for permission to host an annual Take Back the Night March in Petawawa on Thursday, September 19th, 2024. So they say that we've been very supportive in past years. They're just asking us for permission this year. This year, however, they've asked for something a little different than what they've done before. They've given us a route that goes down Civic Center Road, starting at Civic Center, down Volunteer Way, up Civic Center Road, and they've asked us to close the roads during the time of the march. I think it begins around 7:15, and I think it will end around 7:45. Are there any questions or comments on their request? Deputy Mayor Sadler.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think this is a great initiative on behalf of the center to ensure that women feel safe in their communities to walk at any time, anywhere. So I would be 100% in support.
Councilor Rivers.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I also think the time frame is suitable for our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments? I guess the only question I have is what everybody's feeling is on actually closing down the streets for that portion of time. Just the question I have is how many people will be attending? I mean, if it's hundreds or up to 1,000, I can see us requiring the road to be closed. I'm not sure how many people attended this march last year, but if it's 50 to 100 people, do we need to close the streets? Councilor Newsom.
Yeah, like, is there a way we can, because I think they sign up with groups and get donations and stuff, so if they don't, if we have a number of people essentially, if they have enough, we'll close the road. If they don't, we have to go that whole length. That should be sufficient, I would think.
Thanks for that. Deputy Mayor Sabrin.
I would support closing the road because we can advertise an alternate route to access the Civic Center and whatnot coming through the garrison. I don't think there's any reason we can't close the road.
Councilor Coutu.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I know our CEO wanted to make a comment, but I'll just say in agreement with Deputy Mayor Savarin, closing the roads. I've participated in the leaf marches before, and it's sometimes a bit of a symbolic to stance to have those roads closed and have people rain on the roads. So I would support it also for that reason, understanding that maybe there'll be less than 100, but still it's a good reason to do that.
CAO.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that Colin did speak to the organizers of this particular march, and they did mention that if we're not able to close the road for any resource reasons or anything like that, that they are fine with using the sidewalks in the month. But I also wanted to say that we can coordinate with organizers and work it out one way or the other. So no worries there.
Very good. Yeah, that's good.
Okay, so I think we're all in agreement that this is an important cause and we'd like to support once again the walk through our town. And I guess we'll leave it up to staff to coordinate with this group and then determine how we'd like to proceed as we get closer to the event and determine numbers. And everybody good with that?
Yes.
Okay, so is that enough direction, staff?
More than enough.
Okay, so I need a motion. Would you like me to read the recommendation first? Okay. The council supports the mayor's office to draft a letter of support for the Women's Sexual Assault Center's Take Back the Night March on September 19th, 2024, utilizing the multi-use pathways and sidewalks over the road on Volunteer Way, Civic Center Road, and Leader Lane. Everybody good with that recommendation? Or should we have road first? It doesn't matter. Okay, I need a motion. So is Councilor Disco, seconded by Councilor Coutu. The council supports the mayor's office to draft a letter of support for the Women's Sexual Assault Center's Take Back the Night March on September 19th, 2024, utilizing either the multi-use pathways and sidewalks or the road on Volunteer Way, Civic Center Road, and Leader Lane. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It's carried. Okay, next up, we have some minutes from the council and committee meeting of July 15th, 2024. I need a motion to approve those minutes. Moved by Councilor Driscoll, seconded by Councilor Donovan, that the minutes of the council and committee meeting held on July 15, 2024, be accepted by council, and that resolutions from that committee become resolutions of council.
Point of order, Councillor Donovan wasn't in attendance for that meeting.
All right, let's back it up a bit. I need a motion to approve the minutes of the council and committee meeting of July 15, 2024. Wipe that last 30 seconds from your mind. It's moved by Councillor Driscoll, seconded by Deputy Mayor Sabra, that the minutes of the council and committee meeting held on July 15, 2024 be accepted by council, and that resolutions from that committee become resolutions of council. Are there any questions, concerns on the minutes? I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It's carried. Okay, we'll move on to staff reports. I'll invite Acting Fire Chief Prue to present FD-04-2024, award of tender FD-02-2024, 2024 or 2025 four-wheel drive 3/4 ton truck. Great.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, members of council. So the recommendation is that council approves the award, the tender FD 02-2024, one for a 2024-2025 four-wheel drive 3/4 ton to the Murphy Ford Sales Limited in the amount of 70,000 plus HST. So this item was first tendered back in May 7th, 2024 this year. The tender was advertised on the town's website and also in the local newspapers. We had 3 firms request packages and 0 firms submitted complete tender packages by the closing date. So staff made some minor modifications to reduce the scope of the tender specifications and re-tendered the FD-02 2024. The tender was prepared and advertised in the local papers and the website again. 5 firms requested tender packages and 2 of them submitted complete tender packages on the closing date, July 9th of 2024. So we had Murphy Ford and the Urban Ford out of Armcar. Murphy Ford Sales Limited quote is for a 2024 Ford F2 2500 or 250, 3/4 ton crew cab 4x4. Expected delivery date is October 28th of this year. In order to fire that, so we get our order in by the end of this month, July 31st. The financial implications, the approved 2024 budget, we put in for 85,000 for the vehicle. Additional accessories and equipment will need to be purchased for the truck. The additional funds budget for next year to completely fit the truck. That's my staff report.
Thanks, Greg. Questions of the report? Deputy Mayor Sadler.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you to the acting chief. Craig, the $85,000, was that for the truck to be kitted up in the original scope? And are these additional accessories and equipment part of what was taken out of the scope? I'm just trying to understand the additional requirements, I guess.
We did have some of the specs quoted into the first tender, like the first spec, and it came back that they just couldn't do it. So the additional will be lights and sirens and radio and a package for the rear of the truck. So there wasn't too many items that wasn't in the quote that they didn't put forth. So it's going to cost probably, like, we're looking at hopefully moving the radio systems out of the command truck that we have now to save cost. But we're going to have to look at a lighting package that's up to date for the vehicle. So that's going to be possibly a little bit more of a cost than the 85,000.
Thank you.
Are there questions or comments on the report? I just have one question about the 2024 or 2025. Obviously, if you get a newer vehicle in 2025, you're getting a more recent vehicle, but I'm guessing whether it's 2024 or 2025, they're both brand new vehicles. Are we losing anything by getting a 2024 as opposed to a 2025?
I don't think so, just halfway through the year, but I don't think we're losing anything really.
Okay, any further questions or comments? Then I need a motion. Moved by Councillor Ruth, seconded by Councillor Driscoll, that council approve the award of tender FD-02-2024, 2024 four-wheel drive, three-quarter ton truck to Murphy Ford Sales Limited in the amount of $70,000 plus HST. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It's carried. Thanks, Greg.
Thank you very much.
Okay, next we have PL-21-2024, a zoning bylaw amendment application, Z-183 De Geer, part of lots 6 and 7, Lake Range, South Shore Drive, Town of Petawawa. Melanie.
Good evening. This planning report is for information purposes only this evening. There's a public meeting on this file on August 12th, so council will have another opportunity to ask questions at that time. However, wanted to bring it to you before the public meeting for your information. So this property was purchased by the current owners in 2010. It's almost 30 acres in size. It's a very irregular shape and has frontage along the Ottawa River, Bradkey Road, and South Shore Drive. And the existing driveway is actually off of the cul-de-sac on South Shore Drive. It's been used passively for recreation since purchase. However, the owners would now like to build a single detached dwelling with an accessory garage on the property. The application satisfies or is consistent with the provincial policy statement and its policies for long-term protection of natural features in areas and development in hazard lands. The official plan, which you can see in your package, most of the property is in the environmental protection designation. It allows uses permitted in abutting designation so that the residential or rural, provided a number of factors are considered. An environmental impact study was done to address those factors, and that study was attached to the report. It's quite a long study. On July 11th, I actually had the applicant bring the author of the EIS into town hall just to kind of explain the so what of the report. What does this mean in terms of building on this property? So we had a good discussion about that, and you know, the so what ended up being making sure the dwelling that's being proposed is safe from hazards, but also that it's not going to negatively impact development. There were a number of mitigation recommendations identified in the report. At the end of the day, the two things that the author of the report was most concerned about was protecting the Ottawa River shoreline and sedimentation and erosion from construction. So we agreed that those mitigation recommendations can only be captured in the development agreement and not zoning issues. So the development agreement would have provisions about geotextiles to control sedimentation and prevent erosion, and also no further clearing of vegetation on the 30-meter water setback. No portion of the rezoned lands are in the floodway, but the building envelope is in the flood fringe, which will require floodproof. Another factor that had to be taken into consideration from the official plan is setbacks from livestock facilities in close proximity to the property. We got the data sheets for those livestock facilities, did the calculations, and moving on to the official plan, it's mostly zoned the property environmental protection and rural, but the part to be developed is environmental protection, and hence the need for rezoning to rezone it to permitted dwelling or detached dwelling. So the proposal is to zone it to a residential 1 exception zone. Residential 1 chosen as it only permits single detached dwellings, and a few other uses like group homes, daycares, public or private parks, whereas the rural zone permits a number of other uses as well. So that is why we're proposing a residential one exception zone. And happy to answer any questions.
Questions on the report? Councillor Dugan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Melanie, for this excellent report. I had the pleasure of corresponding with Melanie a bit over email before the meeting. I just wanted to raise some of the concerns that I had raised with Melanie today. First being the building envelope's quite large. As well, as of right, the owner would be permitted to put up a second dwelling unit. So that to me is a bit of a concern when we're talking about mitigating the damage to an environmental protection area. And I'll raise the issue again, just why we have the environmental protection areas. And part of it is to protect those really sensitive and special and important ecosystems. So there's wetlands nearby, and that really is the river's kidney. So I'm really hesitant to change anything when it comes to an environmental protection zone. But in particular, this area, there's a few biodiverse areas in issue, but talking about the report, and I'm glad that we will have an opportunity, as Melanie said, to discuss the report with the author. I did find that it was pretty light on information as to how the building itself would impact how sedimentation and erosion occurred, and also how it would contribute to flooding. So I think we all understand that when you displace habitat, for example, trees and marshes and meadows, those are areas that soak up water. So changing the flow of water, changing how water moves on this property will have some add-on impacts. And I didn't read any of that in the report. And there was nothing to do with wildlife, which again is one of the reasons why we protect these areas. So I guess to summarize, my concern really is that we're not thinking forward enough. And I totally understand this individual's desire to have a waterfront house. Like, that's amazing, but that's a very personal benefit when we're talking about something that's public, being our natural heritage, which for me is, again, forward thinking, thinking about the fact that we can't get these areas back once we rezone them. So those were some of my concerns, and I think I've covered them all. Yeah. So that's where I'm at, and I'm really looking forward to the public meeting and getting some more information from the author of that report. Thank you, Melanie, for your answers today.
Further questions or comments? Okay, so as Melanie said, this is for information only, and we'll have another chance at both the public meeting and when it comes forward as a bylaw as well. So we'll be looking forward to getting a little more information that you might want. Anything further? Okay, so we'll receive that as information. Next, we have PL-21-2024 zoning bylaw amendment application Z182 Silky. JP2G Consultants, agent for Harlan Silky and Lisa Laverdiere Silky. Part of Lot 13, Range C 2883-2889, Petawawa Boulevard. Ellen.
Thank you. Again, this report is for information purposes. We're going to have a public meeting on August 12th about this application as well. You can see on the key map, the subject land is front on Petawawa Boulevard. There are currently 2 existing uses on the property. You wouldn't be able to tell that it's one property probably from looking at it on the boulevard. An optometrist's office on one side and a house on the other, separated by a thick, high hedge. There was a consent application submitted to actually separate those 2 uses, each on their own lot. It was approved on May 29th, 2024, conditional on this rezoning. So the whole purpose of the severance is to separate them so each use, the commercial and industrial, are on their own lot, and then those lots can be separately conveyed or sold. The zoning bylaw amendment is consistent with the provincial policy statement. It conforms to the new official plan. A note there that as part of the official plan update for the town, this whole property used to be commercial, so the residential part is now designated suburban, and that update was done knowing that this file was in process, and so that will take effect when the official plan is approved by the council. And then the zoning amendment is to rezone the residential part to residential 1 zone, and the commercial part stays commercial, but it needs reductions in the lot frontage and the interior side setback. So essentially just recognizing the existing uses of the property, having each use on its own lot, and the zoning amendment is just recognizing those uses and the current building on those lots. And again, it's a condition of severance, and we'll have a covered meeting about it on the 12th.
Questions on the report? I have one small question about the amount of parking at the commercial portion of those 2 lots. Is it up to our standards in terms of number of spaces? And when something like this happens, the severance, and we're looking at making it 2 separate entities, does that change the number of spots required, or does it need to be updated?
I will look into the number of parking spots. Let's say the hedge really cuts this property in half already. The commercial business is not parking on the residential side currently, but I will check that the number of spots is appropriate.
Okay, thanks. Any further questions? Okay, thank you very much, Melanie. We'll receive that as information. Okay, next we have PW 22-2024, proposed speed reduction on County Road 51, Petawawa Boulevard, between Golf Course Road and Skokie Drive in the town of Petawawa. Chris.
Great, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Evening, members of council. All right, staff were asked to provide relevant data to council to determine if a request to the County of Renfrew is warranted to pursue a reduction in speed on Petawawa Boulevard from its current 80 km/h maximum speed to 60 km/h. We'll start off the report with some of the discussion items and some of the data sets. So County Road 51, known as Petawawa Boulevard, runs southeast to northwest from the intersection of Beeline and Golf Course Road at the southeast end of town to Pocket Road at the northwest end of town at the entrance to Garrison Petawawa. Petawawa Boulevard, as we all know, it's an arterial highway connecting Petawawa to Laurentian Valley Township and to the city of Pembroke via Pembroke Street West. This highway serves as the main arterial transportation link between our local communities and is key to our shared economic success. In its current form, Petawawa Boulevard is an 80-kilometer roadway from the town limits at Golf Course Road to Skokie Drive. Skokie Drive, the speed limit drops to 50 km/h. So here is the important stats for council to consider as we move along with this report. So the distance involved in this proposal from Golf Course Road to Skokie Drive is 6 kilometers. So when we look at the current speed at 80 km/h, if you're driving at the speed limit, you're covering that distance in 4.5 minutes. If the speed limit were dropped to 60 km/h, the distance is covered in 6 minutes. The average daily traffic volume on County Road 51, Petawawa Boulevard, is approximately 12,000 vehicles per day. I put in the report making it one of the busiest roadways in the county of Renfrew, but I believe it is the busiest roadway in the county. Pineview Public School is located within the 80 km/h zone. Parents who have children attending the school have advocated to have the speed limit reduced. And there is a letter attached to this report requesting such a speed limit reduction. Staff also contacted the Renfrew County Joint Transportation Consortium to request data on bus stops and the number of students within this zone. There are 12 bus stops servicing some 33 students on Petawawa Boulevard between Skokie Drive and Golf Course Road. Public Works staff conducted an entrance survey along Petawawa Boulevard between Golf Course Road and Skokie Drive and found the following entrance data. There are 89 residential entrances accessing Petawawa Boulevard. There are 34 commercial entrances accessing Petawawa Boulevard and 20 roadways intersecting Petawawa Boulevard. And that's just within the golf course to Silky, just within that 80-kilometer-an-hour zone. We also contacted the Upper Ottawa Valley OPP and requested accident statistics report for the years 2018 to 2023 inclusive. So it's a 6-year period. And the report highlighted the following data. There were a total of 289 accidents along Petawawa Boulevard in the 6 years from 2018 to 2023. Thankfully, there were no accidents resulting in fatalities. There were 45 accidents involving non-fatal injuries, 244 accidents involving property damage. 83% of all collisions occurred in clear conditions. 70% of accidents occurred during daylight hours. 45% of reported collisions falls into the following 3 categories. 49 accidents were due to an inattentive driver. 44 accidents were due to following too closely, and 39 accidents were caused by fail to yield the right of way. And there were also 3% involving alcohol or drugs, 5% involving wildlife, and 3% involving commercial motor vehicle. So that's the relevant data for the 6 years as far as accident stats. Within the report, I included a data table with data sets 1 through 10, along with an archive data from an older, much older set from 2021. But essentially what we were looking at was the average daily traffic in the area. The Black Cat was set up at Pineview Public School. And you can see from the table what the average daily traffic is close to 11,000 cars per day. I used a 0-kilometer enforcement for my data table. I felt it was important to look at the percent speeding from as simple as it gets. The speed limit is 80 kilometers an hour, and this is how many people are speeding. I understand that you can look at it from a 5-kilometer or 10-kilometer buffer, but for the purposes of this report, I felt it was important to look at the data as it stands with it being the 80 zone. So it works out to an average of 18% of drivers are speeding or exceeding the 80-kilometer per hour maximum. So because this is a county road, if council determines that they wish to move forward with pursuing a speed reduction, that request would have to go to the county. And what I included in the report was some important dates. So if the request moves to the county, it would be communicated to the County of Renfrew's Director of Public Works and Engineering for recommendation at the next County Operations Committee meeting. And that would be held on August 13th, with the corresponding County Council meeting occurring on August 28th, 2024. So obviously with school starting in the fall, it seemed prudent to have this discussion now. So if the process moves forward, we do have some time to initiate a plan to communicate this change to the public. And I added that in the report. So should County Council support the request to reduce the speed limit, the Town of Petawawa will prepare a media release and social media communications to inform residents and visitors about the speed limit change. This media release will be communicated to the following stakeholders: local media outlets, Renfrew County Joint Transportation Consortium, Renfrew County District School Board, Renfrew County Catholic District School Board, Garrison Petawawa, and the Upper Ottawa Valley OPP Detachment. Additionally, we propose public service announcements during the first 2 weeks of school, approximately September 3rd to 13th, 2024, and these will be purchased through MyFM 104.9 radio and 96.7 radio. So the financial implications, if this were to proceed to a speed reduction, would be around $1,600 plus applicable taxes for the radio announcements. And then if we pursue the third option in the recommendation for a traffic study, there would be budget deliberations for 2025 to pay for that study. So as far as the recommendations for the report, there are 3 options for council to review, and that's why staff are seeking council direction on which option to pursue. So option number one is that council requests the County of Renfrew to lower the speed limit on County Road 51, Petawawa Boulevard, from 80 kilometers an hour to 60 kilometers per hour between Golf Course Road and Silky Drive within the town of Petawawa. Or option number two is to leave Petawawa Boulevard as an 80 kilometer per hour highway. Or option number three, prior to making a decision on the speed limit change, council requests that a traffic study be conducted by the County of Renfrew on this portion of Petawawa Boulevard and provide recommendations to the town of Petawawa. So that's the staff report. I can answer any questions regarding the report, and certainly if there's other questions, I can do my best to expand upon the data. But I think it's important to understand that staff try to provide the relevant data for you to have a fulsome discussion on this, without looking like we're pushing an agenda here in any way. So it was important for the data to be given to you and let council decide. So I will turn the discussion over to council and I'll answer any questions if I can. Thanks.
Thanks, Chris, and thanks to you and your staff. A lot of work went into this report. A lot of contacts were made, and you certainly gathered a huge amount of data that could help us make our decisions. So we'll start with Councillor Ruth.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Chris, to the your whole staff that worked on the report. Very, very thorough, lots of good information. So is it actually saying the average speed was 76.9 kilometers? Is that what that says? Page one, average speed 7.69. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Very first page. Speed. So the speed limit's 80 kilometers, and it says the average speed was 76.9 kilometers.
Sorry, Councillor Roots, I'm not seeing that at all.
The front page.
Yeah, I don't have that in my report.
Oh, that's your handout? Sorry. Okay, sorry, Chris. This is
That's
the mayor.
okay.
Sorry. I thought it came from you.
Apparently, I don't have my own report.
No, sorry, thank you. No, but I did have the concerned parents even at my door with their petition. I travel past the Pineview School that was identified 6 times per day. I was telling the mayor that my speed, going by my vehicle, I've never hit ever 80 kilometers going by my computer on my vehicle. It's always like 70 kilometers, 65 kilometers. Very, very low. Like I said, lots of traffic. Not sure where this is going to go with our council here this evening. If it's going to be a traffic study or a reduction of speed limit, but definitely what I'm concerned about, I think, especially for the people who are new to the area, truck drivers, anyone who's traveling, delivery services, they're not aware that there is a school even there. So I would definitely like to see some community safety measures in place. It could be, especially during like school times. It could be like Monday to Friday from the times of 7 a.m. till 5 p.m. Starting in September when school starts, till the June 30th till school ends. I think I'd like to see maybe some painting of the roads to identify the school area or traffic signage, some cautious lights, caution lights, just to make people aware of that area. I know today people always seem to be in a hurry, and then just to make them aware of that whole area in that section right there is my biggest concern. Yeah, I think like 80 kilometers is, I don't know if people are driving exceeding that in a great way. I don't see that as so much, but maybe in that area just to bring community awareness to people who are like trucks passing through, they're delivering, just to make that aware. But there's lots of ways to bring this caution to people on the road. That's my call. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Samberg.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Chris, for the report. And I guess when you use the over 80 kilometers and speaking to what Councillor Root said, I'd be interested to know what the under 80 kilometer looks like as well, just for wholesome data. I think my first go-to would be to ask the County of Renfrew to conduct a traffic study. Our community is in fact growing, and having these statistics and this information would assist me in making a decision. for sure, when you've got kids walking down the boulevard, and when you've got traffic flowing, you've got people having to cross the road to get to a school, that's always disconcerting. And I just would like to have that traffic study to really have a good idea as to what the picture looks like today, so that I can move forward with the decision. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Driscoll.
Thanks, Mayor. Yeah, thanks, Chris, again for this, report. The one thing with the data set I did notice difference, with information provided by Councilor Carney was that in the rear collisions in the zone that we're talking about reducing is actually only 85 collisions, not the 289. So the vast majority of collisions are happening in 50-kilometer-hour zone. I understand there's more speed lights, stuff like that. But I think that is a change to that data set. I understand that there is motion involved in this, especially after a accident at a school, but I have spoken with quite a few people on this aspect, and I haven't had a lot of support for changing it. People like to keep that to 80. I would be willing to see a traffic survey and make a decision then, but as of right now, I would not be for reducing this piece.
Thank you. Councillor Donovan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you to Chris. Thank you, Chris, for the report. I do like the idea of conducting another survey, certainly at the county level, to make sure that we have their input as what's going on. And I appreciated the information with regards to the amount of time spent driving the 6 kilometers and the difference between 4.5 minutes to 6 minutes. So I think once we have another look at it, another review goes through, we may be able to have the information that would help us make it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Kutzin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you very much, Chris. Looking at the data we have now, I'm not sure that there's anything else that a traffic study could tell us. What I think about specifically is that Petawawa is going to densify. We have densification coming. It's as of right. We'll have, more dwelling units put in where we already have dwelling units. So I'm thinking about the fact that for a lot of towns, you come into the town, you reduce your speed. And that's part of just the fact that you have residents out doing all kinds of things. And there's something that Councillor Roots raised that I definitely want to highlight as well, the traffic calming measures and other safety measures. I would like to see the county and the school board work together on putting bollards, let's say, in the road allowance between and sort of fortifying that school area, because we will never remove that hazard. The road will always be there, but we can certainly mitigate the hazard. So I think no matter what the speed limit is, I would love to see further protection, further community awareness, more signage, painting, etc. But when it comes to reducing speed, I think perhaps the time has come that we accept that Petawawa is growing. And when you get into Pembroke, you reduce your speed because there's commercial buildings, there's residences, and we're experiencing that same sort of situation here where you come into Pet and maybe you should be reducing your speed. So when it comes to a traffic study, I'm not sure what other information we would get from it. I actually see everything that we need to make our decision. So I would even be comfortable asking the county to change that speed limit, looking towards the future and accepting that currently right now there is more that we could do to keep everyone safe, not just school children.
Further questions or comments? Okay, I'll weigh in here. As somebody who lives not far off the boulevard, I spend a lot of time turning on and off the boulevard. And my street is Radke Road, and when I turn right to come here to Town Hall, I look left and there's a slight curve in the road and I don't see anybody, so I pull out. And then I look in my rearview mirror and I have 2 cars right up behind me because they're coming around the corner, supposedly 80, but sometimes probably a little bit quicker than that. I'm not going to recount all of the accidents that I've been involved with or come upon on the boulevard because we take quite a while. And my reasoning behind talking about accidents that happen on that road is, would they have happened if people were going 20 kilometers an hour slower? Their reaction time would be better. You'd have more room to stop if you were going 20 kilometers an hour lower. So I'll just highlight 2 incidents because the more I see, and I've lived here a long time and I like driving fast. when you're late to go somewhere, you know, it's an 80 km/h zone and you have the ability to get there a little quicker. But to Councillor Donovan's point, it's a 6 km stretch of road, and the difference between going 60 and 80 is 90 seconds. So those 90 seconds of driver's time worth the lives of our citizens here in Petawawa. It's 90 seconds. It's not that much. But a couple of years ago, I was at Bright Eyes and Bushy Tails when they have their big carnival. And there were a lot of cars parked down side streets and along the boulevard. But as I was going through the tent and looking at a few things, there was a loud bang out on the road. And there was an accident right on the boulevard in front of Bright Eyes and Bushy Tails. Now, there were a lot of extra vehicles there that day, but would that accident have happened if the car was traveling 60 instead of 80? But the one that really struck home was last October when there was an accident at Pineview Public School, where a car, distracted driver heading to Pembroke, crossed the center lane, the far lane, a grass median, and a sidewalk, and hit the fence in front of Pineview Public School. Tore up the fence, which then destroyed 6 to 8 cars that were parked there. Continued on down the parking lot of Pineview, down the bus loading zone, and hit a bike rack and slammed into a tree, totaling the truck. The accident occurred at about 2 p.m. It was a school day. About an hour and a half later, there would have been 168 kids leaving that school to get onto their buses. Parents would have been there to pick up the kids. And when I arrived at the accident 10 minutes later, I had a sick feeling in my stomach about what could have occurred. Would that have occurred if that car was traveling 60 instead of 80? I can't speculate, but I'm thinking probably not. And I know when you come upon something like that, you get emotional and you have a reaction, and right away you think we got to do something about this. But it's not just that. It's not just the one in front of Bright Eyes and Bushy Tails. We are a community that will soon hit 20,000 in population. And the stats that Chris showed there about how many residential driveways, how many commercial properties, how many roads are along just that 6 km stretch of road. And it's only going to get busier, not just with traffic, but with more subdivisions going up. There'll be more people entering and exiting that section of the boulevard. Yes, we can do another traffic study, and who knows what we'll find, but I agree with Councillor Coutu. I don't think it's going to be anything different than what we're being presented here tonight. And I know it's a convenience thing that people, if you're late, you like to get somewhere in a hurry, but it's 90 seconds of your life. I've had some people say that that's a long stretch of road. It's 6 kilometers. So you should be able to go 80 on it. It's a big, long stretch of road. When you drive into the community of Deep River, just as you pass Banting Drive, from there all the way to the far side of the community of Deep River, it's 5.5 kilometers. And it's a 60 kilometer zone for those whole 5.5 kilometers. And I think if you compare the town of Deep River and how many access points are in that 5.5 kilometers, it would not be as much as we have in that 6 kilometer stretch here in Petawawa. And it doesn't matter what community you drive through in Renfrew County, whether you go through Madawaska, Chalk River, Deep River, Cobden, Eganville, every community you drive through, it's 80 kilometers, but when you enter the city limits, it turns into 60. How is that any different than the growing community of Petawawa? On that very same stretch of road, you get to Golf Course Road, it's still 80 kilometers. You hit the city limits of Laurentian Valley, where Petawawa Toyota is, it drops to 60 kilometers an hour. It's the same road, the same stretch of highway. And when you hit that section of the boulevard, there's just a few businesses, maybe 1 or 2 homes, and it drops to 60 kilometers an hour. How is that any different than us here in the town of Petawawa? So I think when we make a decision like this, it's probably not going to be popular because there are people who have lived here for a long time. And I'm one of them. I enjoy the freedom to drive 80 kilometers an hour on that road. But I can't recount the number of times that the light changes to red on Laurentian and I have to hop onto the brakes because I'm going 80 kilometers or more an hour. The light changes quick and it's a struggle to get stopped for that light. But it wouldn't be a struggle if you're going 60 kilometers an hour. That's all I can say about that. I would like to see us really be concerned less about convenience for people who like to get from A to B at a quicker pace and think that it's only 90 seconds and it is the safety of all of our residents, all of our kids. 33 kids stand on that road twice a day, waiting for the bus, getting off the bus. Pineview has 140 kids and 88 of them walk. Now, some of them are walking on the boulevard, but some of them are, and some of them cross the boulevard to get to the other side. I ride my bike on the Algonquin Trail. To get there, I have to stop at the end of Rocky Road and wait for cars that are traveling 80 to 100 to get my bike across to the Algonquin Trail. And I'm not the only one. There's ATVs, cyclists, all kinds of people trying to cross that boulevard to get to the Algonquin Trail. And we just passed a bylaw that has allowed not only our residents, but anybody coming to town in an ATV to cross that boulevard. And with cars going 80 to 100, it's a lot more difficult to get across there. So that's where I am. I would like to see us reduce it from 80 to 60, but if everybody would like to see some further study done, I think that's warranted as well. So that's where we are. We have 3 options. Oh, go ahead now, Councillor Coutu.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I could have waited for you to finish. I was just gonna say, I'm comfortable to motion that, I believe it's the first option there. Yes.
Make that motion. Okay, so I'll read it just so everybody understands. The council requests the county of Renfrew to lower the speed limit on County Road 51, Petawawa Boulevard, from 80 kilometers an hour to 60 kilometers an hour between Golf Course Road and Silky Drive within the town of Petawawa. So it's moved by Councillor Coutu. Is there a second? Seconded by Councillor Donovan. Any further questions or comments? I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Do I put them? Okay, so we're at a standstill. So you see the other option.
You have to.
Deputy Mayor Sandberg.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to, motion the, down.
Option 3.
That the traffic study?
Yeah.
Yes, option 3, please. Motion forward.
Yeah, I'll read it just so everybody understands. The council requests that a traffic study be conducted by the county of Renfrew on County Road 51, Petawawa Boulevard between Golf Course Road and Silky Drive and provide recommendations to the town of Petawawa. So that option is moved by Deputy Mayor Sadler. Is there a second? Seconded by Councillor Roots. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Can you see that again? Just opposed? Okay, so I guess we're going with option 3. It's been a long day. Got everything you need on that one, Chris?
Yes.
Okay. Thanks again for your
Have
report.
that okay.
Okay, next we have PW-23-2024, dedicated gas tax funds for public transportation program.
Okay. This one should go fairly quick. So, following council's directions from the May 27th, 2024 council and committee meeting to continue operating the community transportation service after March 31st, 2025 through a partnership with CareCore Health and Community Services, staff entered into discussions with representatives from the provincial dedicated gas tax funds for public transportation program. So just a bit of background, we had a grant funding initiative that allowed us to carry out the community transportation program. That grant funding stream has ended. So now it's moved to a gas tax funded model. So essentially, in order to keep the program going, we need a resolution from council to get accepted into this program. Council must adopt a resolution committing to providing ongoing financial support for the operation of our current community transportation service. This resolution needs to be submitted to the province by September of 2024 to ensure inclusion in the program for 2025 and 2026. Later in September, province determines the funding envelope for 2025, 2026. And essentially, we get brought into the program. So funds provided through this program cannot exceed 75% of the amount of municipal owned funds invested spent annually on transit and transportation. And there's a list below providing the eligible expenditures for the provincial gas tax. So it can be used for operating expenditures, capital expenditures that promote increased transit ridership, capital expenditures for the replacement of any transportation vehicles, capital expenditures that provide improvements to transit security and passenger safety, and major refurbishment of any fully accessible or to be made fully accessible public transportation vehicle. And funds may also be assigned to the municipality's gas tax reserves for future use. So the Ministry of Transportation provided staff with a gas tax allocation estimate for 2025, 2026 in the amount of $74,546 and an additional $82,617 for 2026, 2027. These are estimates only. They are not guaranteed funding. They are based on available data and calculated using the funding envelope that's in place this year, or 2023, 2024. The estimates are subject to change and will depend on both the size of the funding envelope and the latest available data at the time Petawawa joined the dedicated gas tax funds for public transportation program. As far as financial implication, in order to receive funding through the provincial gas tax funds for public transportation, the municipality must contribute its own funds annually to the transportation service. An annual budget of 80 to 100,000 should be considered for 2025, 2026, and 2026, 2027 to continue operating the community transportation service in partnership with Care for Health and Community Services under the current service provisions. A new accessible van may be required to be purchased either during or following 2026, 2027, which would be eligible for funding under the provincial dedicated gas tax funds for public transportation programs. So again, I'd like to thank Dawn. She's done a phenomenal job on this file and was unable to come tonight to present this, so I'm filling in for her. But the resolution at the start of the report is essentially what we need tonight is to adopt the resolution to comply with the application process to receive funds under the dedicated gas tax funds for public transportation program. And the resolution is listed there. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions on the report? Councilor Ruth.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Chris, and thank Dawn for the very good report. This is something I will be supporting. It's an important service, and with our community, I was talking to the people who use this. It's something that's growing, and I see a future ahead of it as well. Thank you.
Further questions or comments on the report? I know you probably don't have them with you, but it'd be interesting to see ridership statistics, just to give us an idea of how often this is used, when it's used, who uses it, where they're going, type of thing.
Yes, so that data was actually presented at the last meeting, but I can say that from my recollection of the data was that ridership was increasing every year that the service was offered. So it's certainly a viable service within the community, and it is well used by seniors and people with accessibility issues that require help. So it's important for sure.
Further questions or comments? Okay, as Councilor Ruth said, it's a very important service to provide for our residents here in Petawawa. So I think it's good that we move this forward. So when I say the motion, do I need to go through all those whereases and therefores? And I don't. That's good to hear. Okay, I need a motion then. Moved by Councilor Ruth, seconded by Councilor Driscoll. The council adopts the following resolution to comply with the application process to receive funds under the dedicated gas tax funds for public transportation program. And then there's a whole bunch of whereases and further that and now therefores, but it all gets the job done to providing us with that transportation service. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It's carried. Thanks a lot, Chris.
Welcome.
And next we'll go to councilor reports. Deputy Mayor Savarin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As has been my practice, I'll wait until the end of the month to report on July or August, July. I don't know where I am.
Just for your information, this is the last meeting for July. So if you want to report on July, this is your only chance.
I still have a few things to do, so I'll report the first meeting in August. But thank you so much for that offer, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Coutu.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll report that I went on an excellent tour of the fire station. Jamie Knox was my tour guide, and I'll tell you, if you ever want to learn the best way from A to Z in a town, go in a truck with a firefighter. Because I found shortcuts I didn't even know existed when we were going from one location to the other. A big thank you. And I also attended a branding session, the town looking at new branding, and it was an excellent session. I love the directions we're headed. It'll be great to talk to council about the things that are being cooked up. And that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Driscoll.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On July 9th, I attended a tender opening for a vehicle, 2 vehicles actually, and that would be all. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Donovan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Nothing to report at this time.
Thank you, Councillor Roos.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On July 9th, I chaired a festival hall meeting. This meeting was to look at new opportunities with our new screen as we're getting ready to launch our first movie event in October. We are also looking at rental rates and sponsorship opportunities with the screen. We're also planning for a very busy fall and the end of year scheduling already as we are in mid-July here. Sorry, I will start over.
No, we got it all.
Thank you. Yeah, so we are planning for a very busy fall program. Sorry about that.
Thank you, Councillor Roos. The CAO will be happy. I have a short report this time. On July the 9th, I participated in an online webinar on biomass heat and power put on by Derek Nyber and some of his associates, just concerning Renfrew County and our ability to perhaps attract some more biomass industry to the county. It was very interesting, especially when they showed what was going on in the rest of the world in terms of how they use biomass, forest waste products to generate heat and electricity. It'll be very exciting to get more of that here in the county, as we do have an abundance of forest products waste from our industry here. I was with Councillor Coutu at the branding meeting here at Town Hall. On Saturday, I attended the Christmas in July container market. There was not only the regular containers, but quite a few tents out there as well, and some music going, and lots of different food, and a couple of prospective businesses that are moving into town had some booths set up, including Ottawa Valley Coffee. So it was interesting to talk to the owners and how excited they are to be coming to Petawawa, along with their 135 brands of craft beer, which kind of got me a little bit excited. Today we had not a grand opening, but a sod turning, or dirt throwing up on the garrison for the new PMFRC building. A nice $42 million facility that's going up on the base to provide a more central location for all of the PMFRC facilities. We had a meeting today with our MP Gallant was here to talk about some issues. And we were also fortunate, the parliamentary secretary for the Minister of Defense came here, Marie-France Lalonde. She was here for the opening of the PMFRC, and we asked if she would come down and spend some time here at Town Hall discussing some of our, not issues, but some of our relationship with the garrison and things we can do to help out. So it was great to have her here today and her staff. We had a great discussion in terms of what the town would like to see in order to improve and enhance our relationship with the garrison in terms of us providing services for all serving members and their families. And it was a really great meeting, and I think we made some inroads into letting the federal government know what could improve Petawawa, not only for our residents, but in our service to the garrison and the members up there. And that's it. I need a motion for a confirming bylaw, moved by Councillor Driscoll, seconded by Councillor Coutu, that bylaw 1679/24 be read a first, second, and third time and passed. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It's carried.
Corporation of the Town of Petawawa, bylaw 1679-24, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council at its meeting held on July 22nd, 2024. This constitutes first, second, and third reading short of bylaw 1679-24, this 22nd day of July 2024.
Now I need a motion to adjourn. Moved by Councilor Driscoll, seconded by Deputy Mayor Sabrin, that the meeting adjourn to the call of the mayor. I'll call to the vote. All in favor? It's carried.